guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As always, I'm excited to be here with you guys. Thank you for stopping by here. And if you're new here, my name is Peace Coach, although I'm trying to rebrand to Tales of Peace. So if you search for my YouTube channel right now, yeah, you can continue saying Peace Coach because it pops up easily when you say Peace Coach. Anyway, thank you for being here. Today I thought because I get so many questions from people asking me, how is it living in Denmark for a foreigner? So I've made a list of things and I call it things you need to know or get used to while living in Denmark as a foreigner. So Denmark is such a beautiful, beautiful country with amazing qualities, especially they have the minimum wage, healthcare, free education, good security, and all that. However, one of the things you have to get used to is the language. If you're not good with language, then this is going to be such a big problem for you. Learning a language is like is one of the most resourceful things you can do because language in most times is tied to the culture. You don't want to feel left out. You don't want to feel awkward when you go out, especially when you're invited to parties. So the language school is free. So you have to get used to that. Most people speak Danish. Even if they can speak English, they prefer Danish. So you have to try and make an effort to learn Danish, and even if I've lived here for a couple of years, 15 years, oh yeah, I can speak Danish, I can get by, I can walk, but still the pronunciation, I still have problems with pronunciation to the disappointment of my children because Danish pronunciation, they almost pronounce as if they have a big piece of potato in their mouth. And then they have extra letters than in English. So what I tend to to me, it's like they write the word in one way and then they pronounce it in the other way. If your plan is to live in Denmark long term as a foreigner, learning Danish is a must because you can't get a permanent residence without Danish. The Danish citizenship test is in Danish, the driving license is in Danish. So one way or the other, if that's your plan, you must learn Danish, so you have to get used to that. So there's free Danish classes of up to 3 years. It's a whole degree. So Denmark will be much easier for you if you learn the language and you know what you want out of life in Denmark. Number 2, you have to get used to the weather. So for me, I hope nobody gets offended, and a disclaimer, all I am describing here is based on my own experience. So other people might have another experience. So for me, number 2 is the weather. I always say the weather is very unpredictable, more or less like bipolar. One moment it can be very sunny, then the next minute it's raining. So make sure that you carry some warm clothes for when the weather decides to do an about turn. And then it can be really, really windy. So it's better you get a very nice coat or raincoat because it's very windy. Sometimes the umbrella is just blown away. And then during the summer, we have longer days during the summer and we have shorter days during the winter. So during the summer, the sun can be up until 10, 11, and then the sun is up very early as 3. So during the summer, make sure you enjoy to the maximum because you will need it during the winter. So the winter, the days are shorter. It can get dark by 3 in the evening, and then it takes time to also get light. So it's like you enjoy during the summer, winter is revenging. So it's. So it is longer, darker days during the winter. So it you go suffer for all the enjoyment that you did during the summer. Number 3 is you must get used to paying taxes in Denmark. In Denmark, you pay taxes between 40 to 50% of your income. So that is something, whether you like it or not, living in Denmark, you must get used to paying taxes. However, the good thing is you pay these taxes, you get something out of it in the long run because you have free medical care, education, and so forth. Number 4, I would say there's a very high cost of living in Denmark. The apartments, houses, food, clothes, all the things are very expensive. And don't make a mistake, especially when you come from don't make a mistake of starting to convert what you're going to spend in the supermarket into your own currency, because when you do that, you'll run mad and you'll not want to buy anything. But the other thing, I have made comparison about the standard of living in Denmark. Whenever we travel, like we go to Paris, in Germany and all those places, even Italy, I find that when we go and eat in the restaurant, it's much, much cheaper compared to Denmark. So Denmark is expensive. That is going to be the other thing that you must get used to. And then number 5, I hope I've not lost count of how I'm counting. Number 5 is it's difficult to make friends sometimes in Denmark, especially with Danish people, as most Danish people tend to stick to the friendships. They create friendships from when they're very young. So in the long run, they tend to form cliques, you know. So you're going to meet people, but most times it might be like work colleagues, and the friendship might not be very deep. So, however, you can break through it if, for example, maybe you have a Danish spouse or wherever it is, then you can take over. His friends will accept you, and in that way, you'll be able to form the friendship. So it's usually very hard to break the cycle. So number 6, get used to seeing bikes, get used to seeing many people riding bikes. You know, don't be surprised when you see a CEO of a company or the prime minister riding a bicycle to work. So here, bicycle has nothing to do with class. It's more or less tied to their culture of trying to be more aware about the environment and trying to conserve the environment and reduce on their CO2 emission. So most families, at least most Danish families, have bicycles, you know, more than one bicycle. Our own here surpass us, you know. We have so many bikes in the store there, and that is very normal for most Danish people. But it's also a good way to keep fit. Actually, usually I run, but I've also started to ride, and I find it very fun. And then they have well-constructed bicycle lanes, and Denmark is very flat, so that makes it very easy. So you have to get used to that. Number 7, if you are black, get used to being the only black person. It might take you days, even months, to see another black person, especially if you live in the countryside. If you live in Copenhagen, yes, you can easily see a black person. And I know we Africans have that mentality. If you see another black person, you kind of want to run and say hi. Some of the black people, I don't know if it's because they've lived here for so long, they might not be receptive. They might not want that, you know. Number 9 is time. Danes are very punctual and are offended if you don't keep time. It is very disrespectful to not keep up time, no matter what type of appointment it is. Time is money here. Forget the African time. So if you know that you won't be able to make it on time, you need to call also in good time and cancel it. Or you need to call and let them know that you're coming late. People don't tolerate late coming here. So you have to get used to being punctual. And then number 9, personal space. So this is something that the Danes take very, very serious, both on public transport, lining up in the supermarket. So if you're lining up in the supermarket, don't make a mistake of coming too close to a Danish person. They don't like it. They don't like it. Somebody will turn and look at you and say, hey, you know, give me my personal space. And that was even made worse during the Corona period, understandably so. So personal space is very important. They can get aggressive if you don't keep that. And then also in public transport, sometimes when you go, if there are so many seats, don't go and start sitting next to somebody. Fill up the other things. Otherwise, people don't like that. And then number 10, learn to take off your shoes as a sign of respect. And Danes, as a sign of respect, but it's also a hygiene thing, because the reason why Danes do this is also because the weather changes so much. One moment it's raining, one moment it's snowing, one moment it's whatever it is. Out of respect, make sure if you're entering somebody's house in Denmark, get used to removing your shoes. Otherwise, it's not a good habit to just enter people's homes with shoes. And then Danes are very direct. They don't beat around the bush. If they like you, they'll let you know. If they don't like you, they'll also let you know. So you have to get used to that very direct way of conversation. For us, where I come from in Uganda, sometimes even when you don't like people, you beat around the bush because you don't want to offend anybody. But the Danes are very direct. They'll tell you. Number 12 is humility. That is one thing I love about Denmark. And Denmark really, really humbled me, because when you come to Denmark, learn to humble yourself. Even if you're more clever, even if you're richer, show-offs are not entertained here. Even if you own a private jet, so what? Danes like to assume that everybody is equal. And that's one thing I really love about Denmark. Because where I come from, somebody has this, they're showing off, they're up, they feel like they're on top of the roof. Danes don't like that, you know. And number 13, you have to get used to recycling waste. Here, you just don't dump waste. You have to sort it out. And then most of the things, they recycle it. For example, when you buy a can of a drink, a beer, or a bottle of soda, whatever it is, you just don't throw it away. You usually return it and you get some money for it. So you have to get used to not just dumping things and leaving them like that. No, you have to recycle most of the things. And then number 14, smoking. Get used to seeing so many people smoking. For me, that was a shocker when I first came here, especially seeing young teenagers and then seeing women. Because in Uganda, where I come from, when you're a woman that you're smoking, people kind of have a negative connotation to that. And also you don't see teenagers smoking. But here in Denmark, you have to get used to seeing that both men and women are smoking, and it is very normal. Even at work, they provide smoking breaks. So people at work would literally can walk out of the office for a short break just to smoke, you know. And then these days in Denmark, when you are shopping, get used to that. You have to buy your own shopping bags. Sometimes where I come from in Uganda, if you buy a lot, they might give you a free shopping bag. But in Denmark, even if you bought for $1 million, you have to buy the shopping bags yourself. And then do not stare at people. That's my number 16. Do not stare at people. People get offended when you do that, of course. Yeah. And then the other thing is bills and household chores are usually split between spouses. So there's nothing like, oh, it's the man who works and pays all the bill, the woman stays home and does all the housework. No. Here, both couples have to work, both have to pay the bills. And lastly, my number 18 is get used to not seeing soldiers on the streets in Denmark. Get used to not seeing guns, because where I am, sorry, I keep comparing to Uganda. You guys might be getting tired of it. But before I moved here, you could easily see in my country, you see so many soldiers, you see people with the policemen and the soldiers with guns. But in Denmark, that is a very, very rare sighting. It's like yesterday I was in town and I saw a soldier, and I wanted to run to the soldiers. My God, can I take a picture with you? Because it's a very rare sighting. So those are things you have to get used to. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope you've learned something, especially if you're planning on coming to Denmark. Thank you so much for being here. Remember to subscribe, invite your friends, tell them to come and join my little growing community, because I appreciate it so much. And by the way, every now and then I get one subscriber. Let me tell you, the way I can get so excited, I get so happy. So guys, I really, really appreciate it. Every time somebody clicks and subscribes, you don't know the joy. Next time I should show you how I dance every time that happens. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Have a lovely day. Until next time, bye-bye.